So here's a little of the text where she meets him and asks where the dog is and how he replies. The story ends focusing on the old man beyond these sections. As I said, she suffers this disclosure, can't really react to it. What would she say to him? But more darkly yet, the story ends focusing on the old man, talking to his now dead and gone dog, and telling the dog that Mrs. Waldron must be soft in the head and that she is not fit to survive in the world much longer. It's a very dark story, but it's also a very powerful meditation on the way that we are all creatures, all brought into existence by some act of creation, and all sure to return to dust. And I think that McGavin himself, who died of a cancer, was very much focused on these themes in relation to his own life when he was writing this, as I say, final story. A number of other points that I picked up on in people's abstracts I'm tempted to pursue, but I don't want to run over time. Among them would be Dr. Forsfield's points about the way that we assess creativity in an ad hoc basis. Other points from other speakers, but I would rather move on to a few general points about how creativity and literary creativity is often conceived. One emphasis is often that creativity, literary creativity, involves the breaking of rules and, in fresh metaphor, asserting a strikingly different local norm. Sorry about the spelling error there. But is it centrally or essentially this? I have my doubts whether it is. I think breaking rules may be part of the picture of creativity, or literary creativity in particular, but it's only a part. Similarly, people will often emphasize, and it certainly came up in Professor Candlin's talk, that creativity will involve interdiscursivity and hybridity, but that too, when we're thinking specifically about literary creativity, while these things may be involved, I wouldn't say that they are essential conditions. Literary creativity may involve inventive adaptation to new technology, and we saw a very interesting discussion of one kind of technology and human adaptations of that technology in Professor Chen's talk yesterday. And one of the areas that I'm also interested in is audio fiction. The simple fact that compared with the old cassette tapes, which were clunky and expensive to produce, not so portable, now we can stick something like McGavin's Creatures of the Earth story on a tiny segment of material in our MP3 player, and that there is the possibility that maybe on occasion now more consumers of a new short story will consume it through the ears via audio delivery than on the printed page. And what consequences may that have for people writing short stories? So the form will adapt creatively to these new possibilities. But again, even there, I'm doubtful whether it's absolutely central or essential. Nor for me is literary creativity primarily a matter of problem solving. I don't see the poet's work as that of essentially providing a solution to a problem. When Seamus Heaney sits down to work on a poem that he's been working on for several months, is it in the sense of finally trying to produce the solution to a problem? I don't think writing is problem solving. There's an element of problem solving present, but I wouldn't characterize it exactly as writing poems as solutions to problems. It's much freer than that. Of course, it may be purposive, but not problem-oriented. So has creativity become a word or an idea so indiscriminately invoked as to be of limited value in any analytical inquiry? This is certainly one of the worries I have, and I would like to sort of think, trying to tease around the theme of creativity, I'd like to sort of think about these other terms that we equally might regard as so positive that one is never against them. Health, generosity. Is creativity ever a bad thing? Is generosity ever a bad thing? Vitality, security. And what do we do with these terms, which are so, as it were, invariably positively primed, that it's quite hard to unpack them and in any sort of kind of delimited way? What are the antonyms of creativity? I think it's quite an enjoyable parlour game to try and think up the antonyms of creativity. My first suggestion might be dullness, but I'm thinking partly of Alexander Pope and so on. Coldness, sameness, but you can think of more provocative terms too. If creativity involves change and making, then heritage, arguably, is an antonym of creativity, because heritage is just what we had before. And inheritance, and nature. And then it becomes very odd to be saying, on the one side, nature, because you didn't do anything about that, that's just the way you are, and then creativity and what's brought with nurture and culture on the other side. So I only throw out these putative antonyms as provocations, rather than having any confidence about whether creativity has a genuine antonym. I want to move forward a little bit to the theme of repetition. Because, yes, no, sorry, I don't want to miss that bit. If we are to corner and anatomize any part of the elephant in the room that is literary creativity, I think we will have to proceed inductively or bottom up and try to avoid saying 3 impossible or absurd things before the coffee break. Proceeding bottom up means considering, for example, the discoursally seemingly least creative thing and seeing if it might have an important creative side. But even here I think we will fail. We have no stable, context-free, extra discursive ground from which we can identify something as radically uncreative discourse. Take silence, for instance. This, we might suppose, must be a good candidate for near total lack of discourse creativity. For example, you're in a conversation with others and you say nothing at all. Surely the nadir of discursive creativity. Well, perhaps not. Silences and pauses, as Beckett and Pinter and John Cage have shown, to name just 3 artists, may speak volumes where words or sounds would have been so much white noise. And we've all used silence, have we not, as a communicative strategy in our teaching or professional lives and in our private lives. Well, it would be nicely perverse for my whole talk to be about wordlessness or literary creativity, but it's not what I've prepared. I'm a stylistician who uses corpus resources and some corpus linguistic methods, and as far as I'm aware, none of the big language corpora have adequately recorded pauses and silences, the wordless bits of the language events whose transcriptions they contain. So I would be a bit stumped. Let me turn to my main theme, another good candidate for a gold medal in the Uncreativity Olympics, repetition. I hope you will agree that we ordinarily associate repetition with being thoroughly uncreative and uninteresting. What do the words repetition and repetitive collocate with? That is, what verbal company do they keep? And I like that phrase, company they keep. The latter formulation has been used for decades as an everyday explanation of collocation. I was therefore delighted to find it used in the title of jazz musician Mr. Eugene Powell's first solo album. And we'll be hearing from Mr. Powell this afternoon, I believe. So, of course, repetitive does indeed, when you go to Planet Google, mirrors back to you that repetitive and is followed frequently by words like stereotyped, iterative, tedious, pointless, and monotonous. Or repetitive is preceded by the verb become with clear contextual implication that becoming repetitive is a bad thing. And then if you go to the Bank of English Interestingly, the first collocates of repetitive are strain and injury, as some of us know to our cost. But the other terms are, again, indicative of negative impact, negative prosody. To be fair, I should also report that there is one instance of very repetitive and very fun as the title of a review of a computer game. And elsewhere, there's another, I came across another computer game review, Ninja Blade, shallow, repetitive, and fantastic. So there is a little bit of counter evidence. Game reviews may be exceptions to the rule.